I hope your groups and the afternoon was intriguing and interesting and maybe even productive for all of you. We have summarized the headlines that you all produced. And in the 10 or 15 minutes that we had to look through what we were given, it was impossible to go any further or any deeper than that. So as we put this together, these are, provocative and engaging, encouraging kinds of headlines. But we're wondering if in any of the groups there were some ideas for specific actions, for next steps, big or small. And if anybody wanted to share some of that, just to put some meat to the bones here. Tom.
Thanks, Sheila. The group that I was part of was the Transforming the Academy group. So one of the things that we were looking at specifically was what can university academics do to, in a sense, take this dialogue further. And one of the things that we looked at quite a bit was this idea of the evidence base that's used against our practices and what we can do along the lines of partly what you saw yesterday from Sami Tamimi in his presentation, but also what we can do to provide resources to people in the academy to be able to do research that would make our practices meaningful and show that there's a difference happening as a result. So one of the things that we agreed to do was to develop a resource list on the website where this is news, right? So I'm a, you're okay with that, I hope.
About the Taos website?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Okay, so stay tuned. There'll be something on the website coming from our group, and we're really looking for others to join with us and adding to that, and also looking at ways in which we can engage students. The last piece that goes with what we were talking about is what we can do to engage with the community more, with NGOs and also with small agencies where their voices are not being well heard. So those are examples of how we thought we could use our privilege in the academy to work with the broader community.
Great, thank you.
Any other, anyone else want to share, big or small, an idea?
I thought we got a system that you see.
Well, I was a part of the group formulating the first sentence, and they liberate the people from psychiatric colonialization. It takes inspiration from Paulo Freire, who said, well, peasants, suppressed peasants in Latin America were colonialized inside by the system. Then bring back soul doctors. Well, back home, I have a book from the 1930s in Danish, the title. It's about psychiatry, but the title is Soul Doctor in Danish. And also I took it from a book, maybe some of you know, by Ty C. Colbert with C from the US, a clinical psychologist for many years. He wrote the book Rape of the Soul. You should read it, it's mind-blowing. He suggests to reintroduce the soul as a concept in nowadays psychology. And that would be, in my view, a very strong concept to rebuild into how we think about ourselves and our psyche. It used to be in Europe, the soul is the divine part of my psyche.
Thank you. Any other voices there in terms of these slogans? Because there were lots of themes generated and lots of paper produced and lots of ideas. So we're just looking for folks to expand on some of these, how you got there and what the next step is. I'm prepared to run up and down the stairs. I was going to do this side.
You want your exercise for the afternoon? Yeah. I was in many conversations with people about this sort of idea of steps and production, what we do next. And I think that there are multiple ways of looking at this. In many ways, just being here in conversation, re-energizes us to go back to our practice, go back to our colleagues, our communities, and do things differently. We've heard different stories, different illustrations, different examples that have been inspiring, I think. And so, you know, whether we speak out, this is what we're going to do, you know, put something on a website and create this, these movements of sort, that's wonderful. And then there's also the way in which we carry on in our everyday practice. And there's one other thought I had that I just wanted to mention from another conversation with Ken and with Carl Tom earlier about, you know, this either psychiatry's good or it's bad. And can we move beyond that either or? Because if we, to the degree to which we demonize psychiatry, or let's just call it science, because that's the language that we're demonizing, we then become the new demonizers. And so it's a challenge. I mean, this is the challenge. We you know, want change. We want to see change. So how do we effectively create the possibility of some kind of open dialogue where it's not either or, but maybe it's a transformation of what psychiatry means and what's relevant in psychiatry? And is psychiatry about science and medicine, or is it about something else? Is it about being together? So, I mean, those are the provocative thoughts I'm leaving with, and I'm sure they'll produce some kinds of actions. One last try. Anyone want to?
Question too. Well, you have to wait. All right.
Thank you. I've tried to find somewhere here I can put in my comment because I just couldn't do any dream waving, so I went out, did it on my own with some friends, and it included some beers and some airing of thoughts after today. Because today has been, well, I started out being quite personal and will end the same way. Today for me has been, I'm going to cry a little bit, that's fine. Today for me has been very emotional because where we started out this morning, I'll come to one other point, but where we started out this morning with the Family Care Foundation, listening to them, always actually, it creates something in me and it releases some feelings that is very, very strong. I live in We Shall Overcome, we deal with the tragedy, always. You know, with people don't get help, being abused. When I'm confronted in a way with that there is another way, it's possible to do this differently, that touches something in me that I, in my daily life, keep on a distance. When it comes to my own story. When we talk about islands of humanity, that has been mentioned many times here, that is extremely powerful. What does that say about the rest of us, you know? Where we have, sorry baby, no island for you. That's been my story. There's been no island of humanity. It's been inhumane. And I'm dealing with that, you know, working to change it, not feeling too much about it always, because you can't stay in that. But always when I hear Karina and Hannah and actually that there is another way, the meaningless of it is so strong for me. And I really feel with my own story, you know, it shouldn't have been like that. You know, I shouldn't have been treated like less than human. It's not okay. And I was also told by my colleague and friend here, Liv, yesterday that I'm not so good at giving compliments in this setting. You know, it's always a little bit, you know, I use it as an introduction and then I say what you have to do differently. But this is a compliment, because this is something that I don't allow myself to feel in general. You know, I'm to a lot of conferences. There's absolutely no room to touch that, you know. I need to be, you know, have my guard up there because, well, that's the way this work is. That's actually, again, I don't know if it's a great compliment, but it is, if you just look behind what I'm saying. this conference has been, because it's always double, but it's been friendly enough, it's been open enough that I've been able to connect with that. And that I would just like to say thank you for that. That is a compliment. What I also have is a suggestion for you. One of the things that I would like to have come out of this conference was some kind of common statement. I go around in Norway talking to the rest of psychiatry, who basically say there is no other way. We can't do this differently without the meds. That's not possible. People will be dangerous. Yeah, it's very violent. Everything. That's what I'm faced with. If I could come there with some kind of statement from 200 people or something for 24 different countries who said, well, it's possible. We think it's possible. That would be very powerful. So this is maybe too late now, but it's something to think about. This public statements from a group of people who thinks it's possible to do it differently, that would be really helpful. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments, and I want to say I think that statement has been made here. I think you can say that. 200 people from 24 countries have said it's possible.
You want to move on? Okay. Yeah, Cornelia, and then move on.
Thank you. I'm struggling all day with this metaphor about islands of humanity. Because when you think about it, that would mean that the mainlands are inhumane. The continents are inhumane, and there are only islands of humanity. This is not my experience. I don't think that's true. I think we have islands and rocks, maybe very solid rocks and islands of inhumanity. But this conference, for example, or this headline there, go into dialogue, trialogue, and multilogue, and all these headlines there are speaking for that there is humanity inherent. It's there, and it's not okay and to demonize psychiatry, and it's not okay to demonize medication, because it can be helpful in certain situations, and I think we haven't talked about that part here. I had trouble to out myself as being one of those demonized psychiatrists, and I would deny to be inhumane in any situation to any of my patients who I very much, I'm in that job for 36 years now, and I've not regretted one day of doing such senseful, meaningful work for people. And I've been trying to develop things as science is providing. And science is not only biological science or only medical science. Science is also psychological science, social science, political science, historical science. So what we are doing here, actually, we are drawing knowledge and strategies and tactics of going further from all kinds of movements, like historical and political and social movements. And I think we need something of that again against the biological drift in and the medicalization of society, actually, not only of psychiatry, of society, against the drift of commercializing and economical and privatizing and all that stuff. We need a movement against that. But we can only do it together from all parts as being experienced patients with, with their perspective, and also being experienced professionals and others, the significant others who are in the field and who care. And in Germany we have these movements of trialogue where there are experienced patients and there's family members and professionals who want to do something together, and you need to draw into also politicians, for example, those people who are making decisions. And I think these headlines here, they are very, very encouraging and they give us so many perspectives where to start. It's not just one line. I think we need a multi practice in changing things. And so this is very encouraging. Thanks that I was invited to come here.
Well, thank you. Of course, nothing or nobody should be demonized. I have been demonized in the real spiritual world. And I can tell you, it's not fun. But well, nobody should be demonized. In the 80s in Denmark, we had in the northern part of our country, there was a psychotherapeutic workshop, which was led by 2 psychiatrists, each of them the chief psychiatrist on each of their hospitals. They are dead now. There was also Barbro Sandin, who was a very famous psychotherapist from Sweden, who did an amazing work. She started as a social worker, and I know she has been the teacher for Karina. We people joined in, and we could. There was a nice dialogue between survivors, psychiatrists, psychologists, and so on. And I remember we had a debate, and now I come to my point. There's a psychiatrist here in Norway who wrote a lot of books. His name is Svein Hausgerd, and I read his books, very interesting books. He was quite critical at his young days, and we had I spoke with him about what would be the future of psychiatry. Well, in my view, I said to him, psychiatry, if it wants to survive for the future, it should change from being a medical discipline where people need to have 7 years of traditional medical readings and then a short period to become a psychiatrist. You should change the discipline of psychiatry. Well, we called it soul doctors in the old days. It should be, psychiatry in the future, if there's a need for psychiatry, should be a very different discipline, which, as you suggest, of course, would combine social sciences, anthropology, real biology, because nowadays so-called biological psychiatry, I don't think is biological. I've read a lot about, probably you would not like it, but there are traditions in so-called evolutionary psychiatry which really deals with biology in a scientific way. So if psychiatry could change into a scientific discipline, multi-scientific discipline, I would welcome it. But nowadays psychiatry is not scientific for the most. What we meet in Denmark, other parts of the world, we doesn't mean a scientific approach, we meet a religion. And that's what the guy described yesterday. He met psychiatry as a religion, as a belief system. If you don't agree with my belief system, I will force it upon you. That's why we want to liberate ourselves from that kind of colonialization. Thank you.
I think now we need to move on. And John, take it. Thank you. I'm sure we could go on for days. All right.
We could, yes. But recalling... Hello. Okay. So, almost all of you were here the evening that we started. So many days or weeks ago. When was it? Thursday, I think. 4 o'clock or something. And recall what you were talking about among each other. And I'd like to invite you to pair up, turn around a little bit, and point yourself at somebody. Would you identify pairs for yourself, please? And okay. Okay, that was nice, and you're all ready to go. Now, remember what it was that brought you here and why it was important. And based on that, what do you now have that you're taking with you? So ask your colleague what he's taking with him that resonates with why he's here in the first place. Okay? So just a couple of minutes. So ask your colleague, what is he breaking? What will he be taking with him?
Don't have them. Okay. Do you remember? Yeah, I remember talking about living in Tromsø, having the uni seminar. Should we talk in English? We can talk Norwegian and Swedish, and that. But you want English?
Would be nice.
Okay. Yeah, I have been used to Tom Anderson and with others organizing the June seminars, bringing in people from all over the place, and I haven't been to the June seminar for or just occasionally over the last year. So I found this seminar on the net because of a young American social worker I met who connected with Jaakko Seikula. And when I looked up the net, I found the Taos Institute, and I was surprised there is a conference with this heading or title, and so that was exciting.
And what are you taking with you, Solveig, from this conference that is connecting to why it was important for you to come here?
No, it's quite different in a way that from what I thought on beforehand, because June seminars have been more about doing the work differently, like different from the mainstream. Or here it's not only like do the talk, it's also walk the walk.
First, my idea.
Hedvig is doing the PhD as well.
But I just recently began, you can say. But I've been in the program for a while, but a bit struggling to find the way, and things are happening in my private life. So, but from the beginning, I was very interested in. I still am in the concepts of irreverence and reflexivity, relational reflexivity. How you and how professionals, together with the people they work with, develop their identity, like a we identity, relational identity idea, the social constructionist idea of identity for professionals, and also how they, together with the clients. So me and my husband, we run a care home for youngsters. It's quite similar to the family, to this, but they stay in two houses, so they are not in families, but they like institutions, and we have staff working with and I'm passionate about, me and my husband, about those systemic social constructionist narrative ideas. So we try to run the whole thing through these ideas. So I wanted to do the research in our context. So I had made a plan for this, but now I'm inspired to do it. So I had these ideas about concepts that I wanted to have some to have, like what you say, just as starting points, and making interviews with filming situations, video film with the staff and the youngsters when they have their weekly talks together, and then have them reflect on, to look at the tapes, to reflect on why do they think like that, what is behind, what ideas, and so on, like, yeah, in different steps. But now I'm thinking the other way around, because I've been so moved of some stories from people that I've been working with in this context, youngsters and parents. So these stories, it's like they want to do something. I'm going to do something with those stories. So I will sort of start from collecting stories from people, like youngsters and staff and parents and social services, and then sort of so do it the other way around. So it can be stories that are good stories, like this is what we have got from this help, or this is not what, I mean, it's not the preferred stories, it's any stories. And then, like, so it would be like a collaborative research, and then find ideas and learn from those stories together. This is my plan. But I'm still very interested in the reflexive processes. But I think this will generate those kind of ideas. And also the reverence, because I know in my work, like Karina, sometimes I have to take scans for people when they are labeled as, the youngsters and the parents. Like, I recently had a mother labeled as a psychotic, crazy mother doing harm to her son, and I could see her suffering. So, like, changing those stories. So sometimes you have to really act against other people, but then find a way to collaborate. Did you get any sense of it?
Yes. Where are you doing the homes?
In Sweden.
Oh, in Sweden.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's quite close to Karina's place, but it's a bit north up. Yeah.
Have you done research on the work that you've done?
No. I have done my.
Sufficiently to make a difference. Sufficiently and, of course, respectfully. So, thank you for your energy and for making this work. And I'll be passing the microphone to somebody that doesn't really need much introduction to us. So thank you, Kat.
I guess this is a bit of a formal farewell, but I want to say a few words before going in that direction. When we began to think about this conference, the hope was that this would move a whole set of voices into some kind of concerted action. That we understood that there were people coming from a variety of areas and disciplines and so on, backgrounds, who would be coming here from various places. But the hope was to collect that energy into some kind of concerted action in the future. Now, what we've done, I think, is a pretty good job in establishing, and I've seen downstairs as well, something in the way of several activities that could come out of this in various sectors. And I think we all understand that we need to have various voices in this conversation, that we need the voice of resistance, absolutely, that cry, that shriek of anguish. We need that. We also need that voice that evaluates evidence, standard scientific vocabulary. We need some kind of voice that can speak to the public, books that come out that people can understand. We need websites where people who've been through, who've been abused by the system can speak out. We need people, and have a few who want to speak to government, who have friends in government. We need that as well. We need a voice, and we have it here, of some kind of concern with, you might say, the humane or reflective use of psychotropics. That also needs to be in the picture. But now a couple of problems that I just want to share, because, again, we're interested in what goes into the future. The difficulty is, we've been through some of this already before, a number of people in this room. This was the anti-psychiatry movement of the 70s. We know that. We've been in the trenches. We've done it. And we had an effect. And the effect in some sense, was disaster. I mean, we opened the doors of many institutions, set free the people so they could have their freedom. And what's happened is the prisons are now filled with these people. They've gone from one institution to another. Now, think about it, because the number of people we're concerned with here that we actually treat or talk with or are outnumbered 10 to 1 by people who are in prison. 90% of the people who need treatment in the United States are prisoners, many of them in solitary confinement for long periods because they disobey the rules, because they don't understand the rules. And if we do anything, if we have any kind of impact, we've got to be prepared somehow for major changes in responsibility. And I don't think we're there yet. My major feeling is, this is just me now, is the practice areas. Because what we've got are a wonderful array of practices, many of which have been expressed here, or demonstrated here. Amazingly, I mean, just so inspiring, these practices. And there are 50 more, which could have been, maybe 100, maybe 200, we don't even know them. But they're not sort of, they have no recognizable or articulated commonality. And it seems to me if we're going to have something that's going to speak to the paradigm change, and again, I'm not pressing this with an opinion, that there's got to be some kind of commonality found so that you could recognize it, so you at least could state it, what that might be. Drugs as opposed to what? Individual therapy, cognitive behavioral therapy, is that where we want to go? I don't think so. So what do we or could we represent? What could we have as a unifying opinion about the kind way we're going to talk about that practice? And that would be a really interesting conversation to have. The second concern is divided we fall. That is, in any one of these sort of domains I have talked about, they're like a piece here, a piece there, a piece there. And they can be easily be resisted, not taken into account of, because after all, ex-mental patients are not qualified to speak about science. Boom. Strong books, but after all, we discount those because the people who wrote them are only interested in getting their name in the news. I mean, data doesn't matter, it's a motive behind it. That doesn't, I mean, the data, we can collect as much data as you want, but you can do the data game forever. So one piece after, I mean, it's like closing Seneca. One piece after another, we don't stand a chance, I think. That's the way I feel. There's so much power in the established order of things, so much money in terms of drug inputs, they can snuff out one by one. And so that's a sense of wanting to get some kind of unification among us, some kind of concerted action in which we all feel involved. Not they're going to do that thing over there and we'll do our thing over here, but we know about you over there. We're going to get people in touch with that. You're going to be in touch with us. We can find synergies among us and move together. I don't know how to do that. My hope is that there will be some kind of dialogue that could be set up after this, and maybe we who've done the conference can try to facilitate that. Or some people could come together and see what could we do to bring some kind of connection among all these voices. We've done it here. How could we do it in the world in such a way that there could be a major change made? How could we gather that unified voice in such a way that, let's say 2 years from now, we could bring politicians into this room. We could bring drug companies into this room. We could bring the people we have railed against into this room and have a common conversation about where do we go from here? We're killing ourselves. Where do we, all of us, where do these societies go? That would be a wonderful thing. Okay. I'm here basically to say goodbye. I mean, this is supposed to be a thank you, and the 6 organizations that came together to do this, you've taken us way beyond what we ever anticipated. I mean, we are so appreciative of the people who've come here and spoken, people who deliver these workshops. So much appreciation. You've come for nothing. It's voluntary. Given your time and effort to that, I mean, that's touching. And the people who've attended, who've given so much energy to these talks. And, I mean, it's been wonderful to go into these various groups, because it's like the dialogues are not like, is this right or wrong? They're like building dialogues. Every one of them has been like, oh yeah, well, where could we go with that? Oh, we could borrow that. Where could we take that? It's been a growing vision, and I love the quality of the dialogues that I've been part of. And so we can only say, you know, a big thank you for that. That's like, wow, this has taken us beyond dreams. And yeah, the other thing about what you've created is that this has been one of the most emotion-filled conferences I've been to in a long time. A lot of anger, righteous indignation, sympathy, fear, weeping, admiration, maybe love. Is that okay? And my hope is that somehow we can take the energy that comes out of that and wind it into something. And it maybe some of you would be willing to participate in that winding, and that we can see each other again, and here or elsewhere. So on behalf of the 6 organizing groups, thank you very much.
Another more announcements. There will be made certificates, so they will be sent out for you on email after the conference. And the videos from the keynotes are already on YouTube, so you can see them on this YouTube website. And we will send out also the link to you on that. And I really would like to say thank you to Kermit and Louisa for making that happen. But there's many people who I would like to thank, and especially the volunteers. So if all the volunteers can stand up and give them a big thank you. There will never be no conference without you guys. Thank you so much. And I also would like to say thank you to Ida, Annika, Theo, Liv, Anneli, Lena, and the colleagues from the Family Care Foundation who has made the decorations for our dinner tonight. So thank you for that. And they are also in charge of music. So there will be some Swedish music to dance to tonight. And I will thank my workplace, Buskerud University College, for hosting the conference. And of course the Taos Institute and all the organizations that you said, Ken. And on page 3 in your program, there's listed a lot of organizations who have sponsored this conference. And take a good look at that page to see and say thank you to all the organizations who have sponsored this conference. Yeah, and it's it's when I started on Thursday, it seems so long ago. So I really would like to see you again, and I really hope that you have safe travels back home and that you enjoyed Norway. And for you who's going to the dinner, I'm looking forward to take a dance. And for you who is not, have a good summer holiday. Okay, thank you very much. And bye-bye.
Hi. Sorry. I just, before you end, I just want to invite all of you next year on April 22nd to 25 to a Congress on Latin American Congress on collaborative and dialogical practices in Tucumán, Argentina. So we are going to send that. So as I listen to Ken, maybe it's our next talk. Okay, thank you.
And we warmly want to thank you, Ottar.
We're going to finish with a kind of metaphoric weaving of the strands, which we hope will bring us together in some kind of unity and action. After this, we can all leave and meet for dinner.
Into the room and let me play among those stars. Let me see what spring is like on Jupiter and Mars. In other words, hold my hand. In other words, darling, kiss me. Where do I begin? A great love story that is all that there is seen. A great love story that belongs to me. Where do I start? Show me my fingers, fingers. Tell me my love is yours. Killing me softly with his song, killing me softly with his song. On a dark desert highway, rising up through the air, up ahead in the distance, saw a shimmering light. It grew heavy and my legs grew tired. Had to stop for the night.
First I was afraid, I was petrified, kept thinking I could never live without you by my side. And then I spent so many nights just thinking how you did me wrong. And I grew strong, and I learned how to get along. So you're back from outer space. I just walked in to find you there with that side look upon your face. I should have changed the stupid love, I should have made you leave the key. If I'd have known for just 1 second, you'd be back to bother me. Go on now, go. So walk out the door, just turn around now, cause you're not welcome anymore. Weren't you the one who tried to hide? Had you not, do you think I'd lay out of time? I will survive, as long as I go home. I know I'll stay alive. I can have my life to live, all my love to give, and I'll survive. I will survive. Until all the strength So you felt like walking with this song. Say no man's loving for someone who's not me.
Oh, it's Frederick Campbell, ladies and gentlemen.
No, no, no.